Hey, what's up? This is ChoseN, and in this video, ColdBrew and I are going to be revisiting a topic that we did a while ago. Now that the game has changed a lot, we're going to be rehashing our Faction Wars ranks. Right here, you can see my list. ColdBrew is going to be adding his list next to mine, blind, without being able to see mine, so you'll be able to kind of catch live where we agree and disagree. And then at the end, we're going to wrap it up and talk about where the different areas of where we agree and disagree, and we'll kind of hash out those rankings and kind of see if we can come to a consensus on some of these rankings in terms of faction wars and the toughest factions as they relate to each other down the scale from the toughest to the easiest in terms of how hard they are to clear in relation to each other. So let's get into it. Alrighty, and now I'm joined by ColdBrew. How are you doing today, good sir?
Hey man, I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Just got back home. I was out with some friends. Ready to do a call out with you to talk about the important things.
Hey, there you go. That's right. So we've both done a lot of account takeovers and done faction wars for many different accounts, many different people, many different times, and we ranked them a long time ago. But since then, there's been fusions, there's been champion releases, there's been changes to the game, new game modes. So wanted to get an up-to-date version here before we kick off Shadowkin in a few months, and then after Shadowkin are released, we might revisit this topic in like 4 or 5 months or something and talk about things. But we'll do our best to kind of rank. Did you put Shadowkin on your list, by the way?
No, I didn't put it
get Shadowkin on your list right now.
How can I get it? Like, I don't know the boss.
Just do it. Add it based on the faction, like based on like average. Obviously it's not gonna be perfect, but I have Shadowkin on my list. I have Shadowkin on my list, so just go through the index.
It's really not that okay, I have it open actually now as we were talking about. I can put it somewhere. Yeah. All right.
Okay, cool. Okay, because what I'm gonna do for this, and you won't be able to see this, but the viewers can, I've got my rankings up. And what I want to do is go through your rankings, and then we can kind of see how they compare to mine. And then after you give me your rankings, we'll talk about where I disagreed, and maybe just kind of talk about the differences here. So go ahead and start with your easiest faction, and we'll just kind of work our way up.
I would say the easiest faction is Barbarians.
Okay. Cool, and then you can just kind of keep going. If you want to elaborate for a few seconds.
I'm just going to go.
Yeah, you can elaborate for a few seconds, like Barbarians.
Right, okay.
Because of blah,
Barbarians,
blah, blah.
obviously because of style of the Drakes. Then we have champions like Haikatun in there, support champions in the rare roles like War Maiden, Berserker, Marked are really solid, even at level 50, Soulbond. Then we have uncommons like Shield Guard, which are still very useful at 50, like Stunning. So there's a lot of options there in terms of champions, and many of them are easy to get, especially from farming. Like the defense down from War Maiden is just fantastic in helping you through the waves. Sal of the Drakes is 180 days, but it's reasonable for an account. So next up is High Elves. High Elves, obviously, because I have... You know, I know the faction, and Arbiter plus Apothecary. If you have them with relatively fast gear, they can be very good supports just of them together. And then you can have a team of 50s on their side with some support gear as well, and it just helps you just cruise through and finish off the faction. And that's how I did it on my free-to-play account very recently, maybe 10 days ago, maybe less than 10 days ago.
And I just like to say, so far you're way off. By the way, you are not accurate. So I'm kidding.
Okay.
we're pretty close.
I was like, what? I thought you knew about the game. I thought you had some experience in the game.
We're pretty close.
Hit your head.
We're pretty close. We're pretty close still, but I bet as we get up the list, we'll start to have some differences. So okay, who's your number 12? That's the two easiest.
Oh yeah, we have the Shadowkin. That's why it's 12. Then I say Sacred Order. The reason is just some faction fusions we had this year Although I don't like to count the fusions, like Astralon was just amazing. If you did happen to get him this year, I got him recently on my free-to-play 2 days ago. Got him to 60, and he got me all the way to the final stage of the faction. Just the stance he has is so good. But even without that champion, there's so many in the epics category that are just amazing. Godseeker recent addition. I'm not even sure if she was out when we did our last ranking. Deacon Armstrong, fantastic champions. Then we have the OGs like Althar is a great champion. Cardinal, just solo heals and revives the whole team. And there's tons of options in the uncommons as well and rares, especially Armiger, which is an option for other areas of the game. So you would have at least one of them at 50 or 60, ideally. So easy faction, I would say, one of the easier factions. Then I was close here, but I'm gonna have Orcs as the next one. The reason for Orcs is that Vrask, although he's an epic champion, is an absolute carry for this one. And then the more champions you have for this faction, the easier it becomes. Vrask is just an amazing champion, although hard to get as just a random pull. He could carry you throughout the end, and if you have more champions, it's even easier, like Zargala, Seer, Yorg. We even have Shaman, which is the free-to-play available champion, the daily login.
As long as you as long as you started after the ninja promo or whatever, or before it. Or because they didn't
or before.
They didn't do Shaman and Ninja, right? They replaced Shaman?
They replaced, I believe. I believe they replaced it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's an easier fusion. This is where we might have something different.
Oh yeah, we're way different. We're starting to get way different.
And then I have Dark Elves. So Dark Elves, I might have put it before the Orcs, but Dark Elves, I found it became much easier once I had Visix, and Visix is a day 270 reward. So unless you're at that point, then you won't have Visix, and you're at the mercy of your pools. Once you have Visix, that provoke is just amazing. It totally changes up the game. If you have something like a Caden for revives, it's way easier. There's many options that can be carries here, like Madame Series, Sylar, Luria, Cold Hearts, obviously. We have Painkeeper as the rares. You can even use a Paragon, but usually Paragons are not leveled up more than maybe level 50. And that's... nobody really levels up a Paragon at 50, unless they're doing something very special. So that's where I have my Dark Elves. Then we have Dwarves. So Dwarves is a weird faction because there's so many carries that you can have. So it can be way easier in the list depending on which champion you get. Like if you get a Brogni, I could have put this as the easiest faction because I had Brogni on my free-to-play. And he helped me finish off the faction with a team of another level, 2 level 40s. So Brogni was insane, but it's obviously not something everybody has. But then if you look at the epics, every single one of them can be a carry on their own. And I would say the biggest carry out of all of these is Geomancer, which was a guaranteed champion some time ago. And even if you didn't have him, he's an epic.
Well. Guaranteed champion. You had to pull 40 agents. It's not like a login reward.
it's a guaranteed after pull. Yeah, okay, I agree with that. But I mean, for what he does, it was really good champion to get, and he's just insane with how much control he has for the whole boss. And then we have champions like Rearguard, we have Melga, we now have the Mytha, Gala, also pretty solid as a way to beat the boss. That's how I beat the boss, like, I don't even know, more than a year ago. I don't even remember. Cornelia now, I think she was before the Mytha, yeah.
Yep.
And we have a ton of more dwarves added. And there's even some rares here that can help beat the boss, especially Hatchet Slinger, one of the rares. You can actually use that champion with his unkillable to actually cheese the boss and have the boss target him, because the unkillable is on a 2-turn duration with a 4-turn cooldown. So you can actually cheese it if you have him fast enough and you do a proper rotation with it. And maybe if you run a reviver, but it's easy to cheese if you try to do that. So that's where I have dwarves. Then I have Ogryn Tribes. So Ogryn Tribes I like because of the login champions, Grush, and then like it also all depends on what kind of champions you get. Eurogrim makes it so much easier. If you get something like a Man-Eater with give him some accuracy, he steals the Terminator. Again, very easy. But it's a faction where you're very much left to on how good the pulls are for the rest of the champions. If you don't get any epics, you're just left with Grush, and Grush cannot carry the whole thing by himself. If you do get Eurogrim though, he can carry even now after his nerf. So that's why I have Ogryn Tribes somewhere in the middle. It really depends on what else you get. And next up is Bannerlords, and that's where stuff becomes way more difficult.
Hey, we have Bannerlords exactly the same. Look at that.
Yay! finally something we agree on. So that's, by the way, I put Bannerlords now on the same line as Shadowkin.
Oh, okay.
Because as I said, Shadowkin, I don't know where to put them, but from the experience that I have from the champions in there, they should be somewhere here. Because it also depends on the power of your account.
Do you want me to put Shadowkin tougher or easier than Banner?
Put it tougher.
Okay.
Yeah, so Bannerlords, obviously a ton of champions available in this faction, but unless you get some specific ones, and I'm not saying Archmage Helmet, which is the Doom Tower one, which you should be able to get. It's gonna be months of playing the Doom Tower and finishing the secret rooms, but he should be attainable by everyone who puts in the effort, even completing half of the rooms. Stuff like a Stag Knight and Ursula are what make the faction easier to beat. That being said, if you don't have those, like an Ursula especially, which is a reviver, then it becomes way harder to control the waves. That's where you need to bring in more control, more stuns, ensure that everybody survives, nobody dies, because the revivers are not so easily available. And that's why I have it as a more difficult faction. Although I am using Commander in my own team for the free-to-play account, which is an uncommon champion. Using Commander because she provides a solid heal and is a good choice even at level 50, high health base, and she fully feels the Terminator of her champion that she heals. So, solid faction, but on the more difficult side. Then Shadowkin, which I said is like a bit harder than this. The reason is, if anybody starts the game now and watches this video, unfortunately, mate, if you're watching, sorry, but you cannot get Ninja. Ninja is gone.
Yeah.
Ninja, you cannot get, if you were of the few that started before this and you're watching right now trying to figure out faction wars, then you have Ninja. You're at a much better point, and this can actually make the faction way easier because Ninja can be a very solid carry for the whole faction wars, I would say, even at bosses, because he totally changes his kit when he faces a single target boss. He becomes like a boss killer. Then we have stuff like Toragi, which is an amazing support. We had Yoshi as a fusion. And then it's more difficult because of the amount of champions available for you to actually progress through. I don't use any of the other champions, really. I don't have much experience with them. If I'm not mistaken, there's not many defense downs as an AoE. I think there's only one with Genzin, who's an AoE defense down champion. I'm not sure if there's anybody else, which is going to play a big role.
Yeah, I think you're right, because Genzin definitely has it, but...
Yeah, I think there's single target ones, but not AoE, and that also plays a role in how you can clear the waves, even with lower damage champions in there. Defense down helps so that you take the enemies down quicker. Genbo is a great damage dealer, but he doesn't do that much other than just straight up damage. So next faction is Lizardmen. So Lizardmen totally changes once you get the champions from the 3v3 bazaar. But until you can farm comfortably there, you're pretty much stuck if you don't have Broadmaw. I wouldn't say stuck, but Broadmaw totally changes the game because of the revive. He also has a freeze. He also has buffs with his A2. So a very solid champion and pretty much a necessity for there. Plus Ryzen, who is a a champion we all can get, but again, we are at the mercy of if we ever get those champions, which is totally RNG. Those 2 champions can pretty much help you push through the whole thing, plus another 3. So the other 3 have to be something tanky with some heals. And it's all about if you get an Aox, maybe a Quargan, that's great. Venomage is a new addition, but it really depends on if you have other sources of healing. If you have other champions, then it becomes way easier. So if you have a Krisk, Dracomorph, this faction becomes way easier than where I've placed it. But if we are just looking at it at the basics of what we have, so Ryzen and Broadmow, it makes it very difficult. And unless you have those 2, which is at a more later level, so with 3-3 farming and getting at least those either 4 epics or how much is it, 12 rares, 16 rares. So you're still at pretty much a pause on the Lizardman until you get those 2 very basic and very much needed champions. So Demon Spawn is right after this. And Demon Spawn, we do get Drexar at 100 days of, again, farming. It can be cheesed with allures, and that's how I beat it on the free-to-play. I cheesed it with double allure and just keeping the Terminator down, single target, and doing it on manual, you know, those 30-minute runs that I do. I did it.
That's generous. I've seen 40, 45, 30 minutes is
I've done
generous.
those too. So very recent addition is Dur. So for revives, you have Magnar, which makes things easier, many more choices. We have Tanix for support. There's other champions like a Padma, Umbral, a Chak, who are very solid champions again for support. Then we have some rares that are great supports. Fellhound, I would say Abyssal is also a solid support because he's an AoE A1 plus healing. So easy choices there for Demon Spawn. I don't know if I would put it so difficult, but as such a difficult faction to beat, but because of the boss and how the boss is, that's why I have it as my more difficult, and especially more difficult than Lizardman, I would say, since Lizardman has the availability of those champions as fusions. Then I have Nightrev. Nightrev is notoriously difficult, but I've done it so many times where I feel comfortable, and that maybe clouds my judgment on how difficult this truly is. I know that you faced, this was your nemesis on finishing the faction wars. I know that it took you like 4 months of trying to beat this boss.
Yeah, it was on my main account. It was the last one I finished. Yep.
Nah, yeah, I'm joking, obviously, but it is a notoriously difficult boss, and you have to you know, find a way to beat it and pass through the Valkyrie stage and then go to the boss and then take it down. Try to have enough damage plus support plus healing. So you do need some key champions, but there's so many champions available. And well, again, unless you get them, it becomes way more difficult. There's no fusions here, which made it way easier. We did have Mother Cybele, but I wouldn't say she made this faction 10 times easier. She was usable, A1 AoE if I remember correctly, but many players actually even skipped her just because of how horrible she looked on paper on her other skills.
Can I?
There's a ton of epics, and it's very doable on epics.
Can I guess your number 2?
The last 2, yeah.
I think your number 2 is going to be Undead, and your number 1 is going to be Skinwalkers.
Ha. This may be like there's a reason I have Undead as not number 2. So number 2 is Skinwalkers. The most difficult is Undead Hordes.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So I would say Skinwalkers because you can actually use an uncommon champion in there to cheese parts of this faction, and the Hippo recent addition to this faction made it, well, I'm not gonna say way easier, but more bearable with at least having a way to revive your champions. So again, at the mercy of your pools, but you still need some key champions. We have Gnarlhorn in here, makes it easier.
You and your Gnarlhorn,
dude, provoke, unkillable. Like What else do you want? There's Greybeard. Also, Greybeard is farmable. So if you want to freeze or something, you can farm that champion, and it's just you stay in the campaign, farm him. Satire and Windtalker are also great uncommons if you ever want to go in there and play with uncommon champions. But I do have a Windtalker at level 60. Not on the free-to-play, on the main account. On the free-to-play, I have a Satire at 50. Has a very solid telemetry reduction on his A2. Decreases the telemetry by 15% 4 times. So, very solid. So that's why I didn't have it as the most difficult one. So, Undead Hordes. With the amount of champions available in this, you would have thought this would be an easier faction. But Valkyrie Waves on the final boss. Valkyrie Waves. Plus the boss ignores all defense, so you have to have HP. If you have anything less than 35,000, 40,000 health, I would say you get one-shotted. So you're going in there with HP on everybody. Then if you don't have a reviver, that's even more of a struggle. In the revivers, if you're not looking at legendaries, there's no many revivers. There's Gore Grab. Even if you have Gore Grab, the way that the boss works is that he randomly targets a champion. I have Gore Grab on the free-to-play. The amount of times that the boss decided, okay, I'm going to hit Gore Grab and kill Gore Grab. If he hits Gore Grab once, he takes him down to 30% health because he's obviously built with HP. And then you're saying, okay, can I revive anybody? No, you have True Fear on you. If you have enough resist, you might not have the True Fear. You might be able to revive everybody. If the boss sees that Gore Grab is not more health than the others, he's gonna hit Gore Grab again, and then basically you wipe and have to reset. And that's my struggle on the free-to-play. I have unlocked the final stage of the Undead Hordes for I think 2 months now, and I still haven't finished the boss stage.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a level 50 Gore Grab, which I didn't want to take him to 60 just because of this, because I said, okay, I might be able to take it down. But I think I'll have to do it just to get through the boss.
That boss is really hard.
Such an annoying. Yeah, the boss is very hard because of the randomness of his attacks, and well, his normal attacks are okay because he targets the lowest health champion. But the other version of his attack, where he puts True Fear on everybody else and a stun on the person that he attacks, that's random. As far as I understand, I might be mistaken.
There's definitely some RNG to it, because I've had to like brute force it for some account takeovers and just do it like 12 times until I get good RNG where his attack lines up.
And stuff like Mausoleum Mage make it way easier. A Sifi makes it way easier, obviously. So it's not necessarily the most difficult one, but I would say, you know, those legendaries that make it way easier are Sifi, Mashal, a ton easier. Rotos, just Rotos on his own. You have him as the hit target. He cannot get one-shotted. He has a lifesteal set on. He'll get an extra turn in there. He'll heal, so the boss will forever hit Rotos, and that's a way you can actually cheese it. If anyone is ever watching with the Rotos, I've done that in takeovers.
Yep. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Well, now
I want to see the list.
Yep. Give me a second. I am going to pause the video quick, and I'm going to send ColdBrew what the actual full list looks like. So be right back. All right, now we're back, and took a few seconds to send ColdBrew the full list. Okay, so I'm going to let you kind of react if you think I'm crazy anywhere, and then I'll kind of talk about where we differ and stuff.
You have Dark Elves way down the list. That's where, I'm looking at the list now. I think Dark Elves, we're pretty much agreeing on the first, the two easiest ones, okay? Pretty much agreeing on that.
Yep. I guess I put Dark Elves a little bit lower because, like,
basic.
A lot of people start with KO, so they're gonna have a powerful KO on their account, and they've added a Reviver in Caden. They've had a Dark KO to the game, who's pretty solid.
That's so far ahead.
I know, but Saris is one of the best epics in the game. Sylar's a huge carry in a stun set and lowering speed. You get Visix as a reward. So and they have really good legendaries. Like all the legendaries are pretty solid, or at least most of them. Blind Seer, Ray, Ghostborn, Zavia. So if you get a legendary, it's probably going to help you. Not always, but you know, maybe I did put them a little bit too low.
So the reason I'm saying this is because when I've beaten Dark Elves, although I had Visix, the way that I had to beat, plus Kaden, the way that I had to beat it is with very high resist on everybody. Not everybody, at least 3 of the 5 members, if I remember correctly. 3 of the 5 members had to have 250 plus resist just to ease the amount of healing that I had to do because of the debuffs, poison and HP burn, if you remember the boss, that he does those. And high resist makes it way easier to fight those. And
But dude,
it's not easy to build
we're too
those.
off. We're too off on Dark Elves. You're like, you got Dark Elves way
no,
down there.
No, I'm looking at it as an easy faction. I wouldn't say it's easy. That's why I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
I wouldn't say it's easy. Ogryn Tribes, you have it as normal.
Just because they've released so many good champions in Ogryn. Like Ogryn used to be really hard, but Claude and Ugo and Uragryn, like they've released 3 epics that are insane. So like if you get any of those 3 epics, it's gonna. And then like you said with Grush, Shamrock is very underrated as a support. Gerptuck can block buffs. He was a fusion. Drakgul's an amazing support. He was a fusion. So like the faction is kind of tough, but when you have to compare it to everything else, I think they have a little bit more at their disposal.
Yeah, maybe maybe Ugo. I like Ugo as a champion, but I don't like his revive. The way it works is that everybody has to die.
Yeah. No, the revive is really hard to get consistent value out of, for sure.
So you can't really cheese your win.
Yeah.
The way other revivers led you to. Then we have Shadowkin. I mean, that's just a blind. I'm guessing you based that because of Ninja.
Yeah, well, I based it off of, you know, so the newer players that are going to tend to struggle the most on Faction Wars, Ninja might be their strongest legendary. So, like, that's why I didn't want to put it as one of the harder ones, because in terms of what they're going to experience with having Ninja, plus they have really good legendaries. Lady Kimmy's amazing, Genzen, Riho, Yoshi was a fusion, he's really good, he's underrated, and they have really good epics in Taraji and Genbo. So, yeah, I mean, like you said, it's going to depend on the boss, but also the last faction they added to Faction Wars was Dwarves, and they added Dwarves with the red boss. So I really doubt they're going to release Shadowkin with the red boss, which is the hardest one to 3-star. So I really doubt it's going to be that boss. So the harder one would be the purple boss, the one that does the mirror universe and the HP swap, the one that swaps the buffs and then swaps the HP. That's the second hardest boss. So if they go that route, I would move Shadowkin up a little bit, probably up at that same tier as like Lizardmen, where we had it at like that 5-6 spot. But if they don't release it with the purple boss, I think it's going to be down there around 9 or 10.
Yeah, it all depends on the boss, and again, if anybody's watching it, it also depends on what you get, man.
No, and
the way it is in this game.
When it says easy, like, it's worth noting, like, any faction can be really hard. Like, if you're a mid-game player and you don't have Syl yet and you just haven't had good luck with barbarians, that faction could be really tough for you. Like, so when it says easy, it means, like, you know, for an end game account that has, you know, good choices of epics in most of the factions, how it would kind of shake out. But any faction can be tough. You're gonna need good champions and good gear.
Yeah, it's more about the gear, honestly, rather than the champions, because with enough stun gear, immortal sets, especially clan boss, farm your clan boss, you can get things going even without healers. With the immortal regen sets, much more usable now. So next up we have Sacred Order. Again, normal. Okay, I had it as easy. I can get it because, like, if you don't have something like a Void Reviver, Cardinal, or God Seeker, it makes things tougher.
Well,
so
I mean,
I understand it.
I was thinking they have really bad rares, but you made a good point. that they have the best uncommon in the game in Armiger, and they have really good epics. Like their epics aren't that trash anymore. Their epics used to be trash, but they added Deacon and Godseeker, which are both amazing epics. So you convinced me a little bit on that one. I think I maybe could have slid that one down to 10 or 11. I would maybe swap Sacred and Ogryn or something, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Next up, we both had Demon Spawn as hard, but I obviously had it way harder. Had it way lower. I would say maybe because of Dur. Maybe.
Yep. I slid Demon Spawn down a little bit to the easier side because basically they released a really good epic for it recently. In Dur, and then they also added Magnar recently, who's a really good epic. And like you said, they just have so many good options in Allure and Padma and Umbral, just so many accessible options available to them. And then like if you do get legendaries in this faction, their legendaries are really, really good. Drexthar, Countess, Duchess, Kymar. The Duchess, or like probably half of them are account changers. So like if you do get a legendary, so like but like you said, it can be tough. It just kind of depends on the RNG of it.
Then we have Bannerlords. I mean, we both agree it's right in the middle, again with what you get and how you can push with it. Many available champions, stuff like that. Then Lizardman. Okay, you had it a little bit easier than I had it.
Barely. I mean, barely.
You thought the same thing with Broadmaw and Razen.
With having accessibility, to 40% of your team, you get Broadmaw and Razen being fusions. That's 40% of a solid team. The only reason it's even rated high in the hard tier is because it's the red boss. So, like, you gotta have HP, you gotta have revive, and we should probably talk about Oryx because that's one that we differed on the most. We
had Oryx way different. That's
That's probably the only one. Like, our lists are pretty much the same, like, 1 or 2 spots or whatever. Oryx is the one that we really differed on. And I did that just because
a little bit,
that faction, it's so hard. Like in the takeovers I've done, it's so hard to deal with the swap. Like you were talking about Verask, and yeah, he is incredible. He's one of the best epics in the game for faction wars. Like Verask and Doom Priest, like both are just carries. But like you have to manual that fight. And they just don't have that good of options. Like you got to kind of like cheese it with a blood feather to get like the debuffs on the boss. Healing? What's that?
You mean for healing? There's not many options for healing, or
there's because a lot of people, they want to invest in like Seer, and Seer's not that great for 3-starring the boss. She can be because she's gonna remove the buffs, so you don't want him to get stolen anyway. But like. I've just, from my experience, it's been hard for me to deal with that boss when I do takeovers and stuff because of the swap, and then also doing enough damage before he can heal himself on somebody that doesn't have really good gear can get difficult. Zargala's defense break is on a 4-turn cooldown. Duck is a lot better, I think.
Very solid in there. Provokes defense down, attack down.
And their legendaries, they aren't that great besides like Warlord. But even Warlord, you're gonna get those buffs stolen, so you got to be careful on using them.
Rohack could definitely be used. Iron Brago, fusion champion,
But like when you compare that to other factions, like when you start comparing that to Bad El and Siphi and Mashaled and like Rhodos, like you compare it to other factions, their legendaries don't really stack up. Like I know Warlord's one of the best in the game, but
and not even the rares I would say help too much. Yeah, maybe you got
veteran
with this one.
Veteran.
Yeah, that's the only one I had in. Like I had Galek on my free to play, but he was just there as a 5th. I didn't have anything else to put in there, but I wouldn't purposely level him up for an assistant.
If you're watching this, don't feed your veteran if you have not finished Faction Wars. I've done so many takeovers where I see in the index they have veteran, and I go to build it, and I'm like, where's your veteran? Oh, I fed veteran. It's like, no, because veteran is so good for Faction Wars if you're trying to do it on a budget. On a budget for sure. So, but that's that. I mean, and then I put Skinwalkers number 1, not because really the last stage, but because all those last stages are hard for skinwalkers, like 18, 19, 20, 21. Like it's just a slog. You're dealing with the Thenasil, Sathalia waves. You're dealing with the Valkyrie waves. And skinwalkers, they just need so much niche champions to have. Like they don't have a way to like buff strip. Like you need No-Rog to block the buffs, or you need War Chief to lock people down. Like at their legendaries, like Longbeard, Hawkhorn, not really helping you versus the.
Yeah, they have like they barely have a list. One row of legendaries.
Yeah, Brachus is
and
weak
like,
against those Valkyries. Like they have addressed it a little bit, like trying to make good epics, like the Hippo and stuff. It helps for sure. But
Cleopteryx.
yeah.
Cleopteryx. I mean, in what? How many months? 3 months.
Yeah, there you
You're
go.
gonna get her, and she doesn't even look. She's gonna help so much in terms of damage.
Yeah,
Have an AOE. No, 2 AOEs. Maybe a stun set on her. Stun set. I think.
yeah, but the one's a 5-turn cooldown. Like I think she should, like, it's really hard on legendaries that don't have a rotation of 1-3-3. So because like she's even fully booked, she's gonna have a rotation of 1-3-4.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I doubt she'll be like a super game changer, but could be decent for faction wars. But like the thing is, it's tough to justify booking a legendary if they're not going to be usable anywhere besides faction wars, you know?
Yeah, it's so hard to get legendary books, even if you're farming Ultra Nightmare every single day. So the decisions become way tougher the longer you invest in there.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you had Skinwalkers at the final one. Yeah, Undead Horse. Oh, you had it 4th. Okay.
Yep, and
I agree.
Like you'll see, like at the top of my list, it's because of the boss. It's all the red boss and the purple boss. All those factions are up at the top because like those 2 bosses are just by far the hardest for me to get done. Is the red boss, because of him ignoring all defense and then just blasting you down, and all the fear and stuff that he does, and then the swap boss with having to, like you have to manual it unless you have god gear. And then you have to also weigh that with doing enough damage. So you have to get like War Master and Giant Slayer on people and try to get him taken down before he swaps. So yeah, those 2 bosses are why I put all those factions kind of up towards the top.
Yeah, I totally understand the reason. Those bosses, especially the one that ignores defense, is just
hard to 3-star.
It's so tough.
Hard, like he's a DPS race. He's kind of like the Dragon Dungeon. Like you can beat it, but you're gonna take some scars on the way there. Like you're gonna lose somebody. Like it's not like, if it were just completing it without 3-starring it, the red boss might be the easiest. But when you have to 3-star it, it's just so hard to not lose anybody versus him.
Yeah, and dwarves used to be so much tougher before we had so many more champions added, like
Melga.
Yeah, Melga, and then we had stuff like
Underpriest,
Brogni.
Yeah, dwarves used to be, a lot of people said dwarves was the hardest because it was like, if you don't have Maui, you're just screwed and you're trying to like cheese it. But now they've really added some good dwarves for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's mostly what I go ahead.
You know what we should do next?
Yeah, sure.
If anybody's still watching, I don't know how long this video is.
It's like 30
If anybody's still watching, if you want to see another video next on us ranking the gear sets.
Oh yeah.
Again, which is the better gear set for faction wars or any other area? I would say faction wars again. Maybe nice, going together with this video. So ranking up the tier sets. The sets in tiers, and which set is the most useful to the least useful. Obviously, the cursed set, the least useful.
Need those heals versus the red boss. Yep, bring the curing set for that apothecary. Get those high elves down.
Yeah, maybe.
Definitely let us know down below what you want to see ranked, and we'll do another blind discussion and kind of argue back and forth as to what's right and what's wrong for ranking, because it's always fun to kind of put this together. So thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks, man. These are always fun to do because it's like you're going back again to think of how hard these factions are. Even though we do them as takeovers all the time, when you get releases of champions, and we do get them every single month on all, every single month. This is like a constantly changing list, and again, it also depends on what you have available. So it's fun to have a look every now and then.
Yeah, for sure. Well, anything you want to shout out on the way out? Anything crazy in your life or with your content coming up, or?
Yeah, I'm again trying to get Lydia on my free-to-play account, so I'm putting a ton of effort into that. If you guys ever want to check out my own series that I do on the free-to-play, and I'm at actually 777 stars at the moment, so very close in getting here.
In how long? How many days? What's your playtime at?
I'm actually day 300, exactly 300. I just got the Cleopteryx shards. I'm at 25.
And that's free to play?
Yeah.
I wonder, like, how
it's not a record.
What is the record? What's the verified though?
Something.
It's verified?
It's I think it's from BG's video. I've never kept record by myself, but I think BG talked with a guy who did it in 230 days, 240.
If BGE did it, it's probably verified. That's pretty trustworthy. Yeah. Okay. I'm sure BGE, if he did a video on it, I'm sure he verified it.
There might even be like a less. It again, so maybe it's like an insane account with crazy luck.
Yeah.
So
like
under 200.
My free to play competition where the guy got Arbiter in like 42 days. Free to play.
Yeah, that was like insane. I saw the record. And I was like, how did you get? Like what happened in there?
Yeah, I thought it was gonna be. I thought it was cool because when I did the free to play competition, and I made it to get Arbiter, everybody said I was like crazy. They're like, "This is gonna take 10 months. Like, no one wants to do a free to play competition for 10 months." I was like, "No, it won't. It'll take like 2 months." I thought it would take like 55, 60 days, and someone did it in like 40. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like,
crazy, right?
Oh well, we're going off on tangents, but yeah, it's fun, and I'll put ColdBrew's links down below. Definitely check out his stuff as well. So yeah, take it easy, man.